guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Today we are going to rank the top 10 Void legendary champions in the game, the most difficult, the most unobtainable champions in the game. I wonder if anybody watching this has all 10 of them, or even 5 out of the 10. I think if they did, they probably spent like $100,000. It's either a house or every single Void legendary in the game, right? That's the options that you guys have in terms of your purchasing options here. But nonetheless, regardless of that, it still is interesting to look at these top tier champions. So hey, if you're lucky enough to pull one of these guys or gals, you can come back and see if they make the top 10, and you can let me know if I'm missing out on anybody. This is actually a difficult list to make because go figure, there's a lot of really OP Void legendaries in the game. This is not going to be clan boss specific. It's just overall utility in the game, and it's not going to be ranked in order from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1 like we normally do, just because it really depends on the team that you're building. It's very difficult to compare like an Ethos to an Arbiter, right? Because you're looking at two different skill sets, defense and support, or nuking. Who's better? It depends on what you need, right? So anyway, let's go ahead and just jump into the top 10. So I said I wasn't ranking here, but this is my favorite champion, in my opinion, the strongest champion inside the entire game right now, and it's a brand new one. It's Sifi the Lost Bride. Oh my god, what were they thinking when they made her? Are you guys familiar with her kit? It is insane. Just insanity. On the A1 here, attacks one enemy. If the turn meter is equal to or above 50% on the enemy she's attacking, it has a sleep debuff. Cannot be resisted, okay? If it's below 50%, the turn meter of the opponent, it heals all allies by 5% of their max HP, okay? Not bad for an A1, right? And then on the A2, fills, this ability is just, what the heck is this? Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, then places a block debuffs buff, then places a 16% increased defense buff, and then places a 30% increased speed buff for 2 turns. Okay, on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. This is stupid. Love Beyond Death, her third ability here, revives a single ally with 55% HP and fills the turn meter while you're at it. Why not? Hey, why not place a 50% increased attack buff while you're at it? And hey, just to add a little cherry on top here, let's add a 30% increased crit rate buff on that ally for 2 turns. What a sick revive ability, and fills their turn meter. What? And that's on a 4-turn cooldown. Sorry guys, this is just insane. She's insane. And then she has a passive, might be interested in this too. Heals each ally by 15% of their max HP at the start of their turn. Every turn. Has a heal on passive. Not bad. And good God. I'm sorry for overreacting, but this is ridiculous. She is ridiculous. 40% chance to removing freeze and fear debuffs from each ally at the start of their turn. Removes all debuffs from Rotos, the groom, if they're on the same turn. Okay, so there you have it, guys. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, we're gonna put her as number 1 on this list. So speaking of OP champions, we got Warlord here. Warlord, another champion I don't have, which I really wish I did. He's great in arena, he's great in clan boss, he's great really, well, everywhere. His A1 attacks one enemy. It's a debuff extender. 25% chance can be booked up to a 40% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Makes him good for clan boss. Places a block debuffs on the A2 on all allies for 1 turn. Places a shield buff equal to 30% of this champion's max HP on all allies for 2 turns. Restores all allies HP by 25%. That protection of God's ability is what he's known for. It's insane. Has a great shield. He builds in with a lot of HP. Has the block debuffs on there too, and then the heal by 25%. Now on his A3, this is what makes him really good in arena. On the A3, attacks all enemies. Can be booked up to 100% chance to put each target skills on cooldown, and then has a 30% chance of fully depleting each target's turn meter. Really sick abilities here, and again, that can be booked up to 50% chance on the turn meter. And then on the aura, resist in all battles by 50. So there is Warlord number 2. Next up is Krisk the Ageless, another absolute just incredible champion. You've probably seen him in the arena, you've probably seen him you know, well, anywhere on YouTube at least. This guy's unbelievable as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at his kit. Attacks all enemies. The AoE on Krisk's A1 here, and then the 30% chance of placing the 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. This ability on his A1, it's just like some epic and rare, you know, that's their main ability. This would be the highlight of most champions' kit right here on his A1. Going on to the A2, attacks all enemies, another AoE, 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns, places 2 15% continuous heal buffs on this champion for 1 turn, increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. So a buff extender, an AoE attack, damage based on defense, this guy's incredible, and then has the ally protect the continuous heal, just insane on the 3-turn cooldown when booked. Wow. Invincible Shell. Here we go. Places a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns, 30% increased speed buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns, on a 3-turn cooldown again. Dude, I mean, I already knew his kit, but rereading it, it's like, this guy's just incredible. A passive, Might of Ages. At the start of each round, places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, equal to 50% of this champion's max HP, 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense buff and a 50% decreased attack debuff on the attacker, for 1 turn when hit. Jeez, man. This guy's incredible. Krisk the Ageless, another guy that I don't have. Next up is Venus from the Sacred Order. Now, Venus we talked about when we were ranking the best poisoners in the game, and, you know, I drooled all over her then. I'm gonna do it again now, just like I've done with the other 3 champions. Half of you guys are probably watching and be like, dude, this guy's way too excited about a mobile game, or about a PC game, wherever you play, about a video game. Anyway, on the A1, attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a strong version of poison for 2 turns. On the A2, AoE, attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense and a weaken debuff, the 2 most valuable kind of defense down / make your enemies easier to kill debuffs out there. And then on the A3, attacks all enemies. Hey, she got the poison on the A1, she got the HP burn on the AoE on the A3 here. 4-turn cooldown, 2 turns on the HP burn. And then she has removes all buffs from all enemies, has a 50% chance of granting an extra turn, removes all buffs from all enemies, and then has a chance of getting a extra turn when she's with Cupidus on the same team, who's another good champion, so sometimes you can run them on the same team. And then increases ally HP in all battles by 33% is the aura. Venus is just amazing. Next up is another one of the new Void legendary champions in the game is Coronar. Coronar is a skinwalker, and he's one of those companion champions with Manaya, but he's a beast even if you don't have her on the same team. Me, I'm unlucky enough not to have either of these champions. I assume most of you are too. Anyway, he has an AoE on his A1 here. It's a Flourish of Slaughter. I don't know how they come up with these names. I guess they're running out of adjectives, right, to use in nouns in these names, these abilities. Attacks all enemies, 50% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 10%. And then you guys can read on if you want. I'm not going to read all the Manaya extra stuff that you get. On the A2, Beastly Bellow. Sounds like a, what's his name? Why am I drawing a blank on the most obvious champion's name? Bellower. Sounds like a Bellower ability, I guess because he's bellowing ash. Alright, anyway, 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, can be booked up to 100%. So places the AoE provoke, places a block debuffs buff, and a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns to help him since he has the provoke on. On the A3, attacks all enemies, places a 50% decreased attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Places a 60% decreased defense debuff on all enemies under the decreased attack debuff. Really insane that he has both of those on the same AoE ability with a 4-turn cooldown, and then his passives are cool too. Has the counterattack when hit by enemies under the decreased attack, decreased defense, or decreased speed debuffs. Always counterattacks if Manaya is on the same team. And then, as if that wasn't enough, he has the Spectacle, which places a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns, If this champion kills an enemy, all of his damage is based on HP as well. So yeah, he's really kind of a sick kit and kind of an interesting look about him. Can barely even see him in this garb. Anyway, let's move on the list, guys. Next up is Raglan from the Banner Lord. She is insane as well, guys. She's an interesting champion because she's attack based. She has not the highest attack in the world in terms of her scaling, but she has a heal based on her attack. So let's talk about her. Attacks one enemy 3 times, fills the turn meter of 3 random allies by 15%. Allies can only have their turn meter filled once per turn by this skill. So pretty sick, especially for Clan Boss on the A1. On the A2, removes all debuffs from all allies, then heals them. The heal amount is proportional to this champion's attack. Then on the A3, revives an ally with 75% HP in a full turn meter on a 3-turn cooldown, can be booked down to a 2-turn cooldown. Yeah, that is a miracle. Just an insane, like, her support with the heal and the revival is great. It increases ally defense in all battles by 33%. A lot of people run her as their main aura champion in Clan Boss. So Raglan definitely going to make the list today. So next up is Ethos. Ethos is one of the best nukers in the game, certainly in the conversation, up there top 3. Some people rank him number 1. His attack is pretty high, he scales pretty well, and then he has this insane AoE attack ability that hits 3 times that we're going to talk about in just a second. First, his A1, attacks one enemy, 20% chance granting an extra turn, decreases enemy max HP by 15% of the damage dealt. On the A2, here it is, it's Outburst, attacks all enemies 3 times, places a 15% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Wow. When you're hitting this hard on the AoE 3 times, not 2, there's plenty of champions with 2. But 3, there's not that many out there, Ethos being the best of them. And then on the A3, another AoE, attacks all enemies. This attack is always critical and he hits hard here. Can be booked down to a 4-turn cooldown as well. Ethos, this guy's on a lot of people's wish list. And again, I ought to be showing, look at that shield. Dude, I love the artwork on these guys. Just insane. Anyway, guys, Ethos makes the list at, well, we're not ranking them, so Ethos. Next up is the guy that I love to hate. You guys know here on the channel, I hate on Tormund quite a lot. I find him so aggravating to go against in the arena, and I don't know, but I'm going to include him on my top 10 anyway because he's just an insane champion, just an annoyingly insane champion. Has an AoE on the A1, has a 15% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn, instantly activates this skill whenever an enemy under both a freeze and HP burn debuff take damage from the HP burn debuff. So really nice when paired with an HP burner, right? And then removes all buffs from a target enemy and attacks the target 2 times, Steals all buffs instead if the target is under a freeze debuff, will ignore defense if the target is under HP burn and a freeze debuff on the 3-turn cooldown. Then he has attacks all enemies, another AoE, places a block debuff, Let me start over here. Attacks all enemies, places a block buffs debuff, and a heal reduction debuff for 2 turns to enemies under freeze. 60% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn on enemies not under freeze, decreases the cooldown of 1 random skill of each ally by 1 turn for every enemy attacked under both freeze and HP burn. Whew, what a mouthful. And then the passive is the really annoying thing about Tormund, right? This is what's super annoying. All the other stuff is just, it's solid, but this is the worst. It's the Wintry Wind, 15% chance of placing a freeze debuff on each enemy each time they receive a buff or have their turn meters filled. For me, that's the only thing that really aggravates me. Not only is it every time they're buffed, but it's every time their turn meters are filled. Gross! 15% chance applies to each target, to each effect individually in cases where an enemy receives multiple of these effects at the same time. Does not work with effects from artifact sets, blah, 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 blah. And it has to revive this champion with 100% HP when killed and places a freeze debuff on this champion for 1 turn. So the full revival, you guys are used to taking forever to solo even one torment in the arena, because that's how much of a nuisance the revival at 100% HP is. And then increase ally defense in all battles by 33%. That is Torment. I don't love him. Some of you guys do. Either way, he makes the list. We talked about her in the intro. It is Arbiter coming up next here, guys. One of the best supports in the game. She's also the easiest to obtain champion on this list for everybody, even free-to-play players, I guess, theoretically, because she is the reward that you get from beating the game, beating the missions in the game. Anyway, Arbiter has the A1, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a chance of placing that weaken. On the A2, it's an AoE, 75% chance of decreasing the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn. Can be booked up to 100%. On the A3, this is the crazy one. This is my favorite of her abilities, but of course she's known for the revival as well. Fills a turn meter of all allies by 30%, then places a 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, then heals all allies by 25% of their max HP if they have less than 50% HP. That's all on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. And then Destiny's Call revives all dead allies with to 35% HP, then fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. Grants an extra turn to this champion if an ally was successfully revived on a 5-turn cooldown when booked. So you need to book her to get the full potential out of her, but she's just a beast in terms of picking everybody back up and just extending battles longer, and longer. She's a great champion. Last but not least is Sir Nicholas, guys. Sir Nicholas is a great support. His damage is based on HP. You build him with a ton of HP, and we'll talk about why. On the A1, has a 50% chance of landing that freeze when attacking one enemy. Cannot be resisted, which is really nice because you don't have to build him with any accuracy because he doesn't need accuracy on any of his other abilities. On the A2, attacks all enemies. On the AoE, plays a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to 30% of the damage inflicted on a 3-turn cooldown when booked, and again, it's a pretty nice ability given that his damage is based off of his own HP. And then to really make him an incredible support on the 4-turn cooldown when booked, he has the Goodwill ability, places an unkillable buff and a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. So guys, let me know here. That concludes our list, I believe. Yes, it does. Let me know, did I forget anybody? I included Sir Nicholas over Turvold. He was the only guy that I kind of had on the edge there. I have Krutraxa in Turvold. I actually own both those champions and use both of those champions. 2 champions that I did not include on the list, just because I think they're great, but I think that with both of them, there are other champions that do what they do maybe a tad bit better, and I feel like the champions on this list, they're kind of the best at what they do. At least that's my opinion. Let me know if I'm wrong. Hope you guys enjoyed this ranking video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys, and as always, take care, guys.